Hi, welcome back to the Hyperstamper YouTube channel. I'm Laura, and I want to take you on another journal tour, a little flip through of the most recent journal I've done. This is a bit of a larger one. It's about 5 3/4 by 9 inches, so a really good size. And I made this one over a vintage book that was very plain, and I added the Officer's Roll Book page from 1937. And on it, I put an antique piece of a doily. It was a huge doily, just absolutely stunning. And I did cut it down, and I put this antique drawer pull on it that is made, I believe, from antler. And I'm not going to put my name on that, but that is my guess. And I've asked a few people and they think that's antler. It's definitely Art Deco, so probably from the 20s. And the beautiful names running down the spine for the people who sat on these committees. And you can see down here it says the social committee, which I thought was really cool. So let's open up this wonderful journal. All the pages in here are original, authentic, vintage, and antique paper, except a few tea-dyed pages that I slipped in there for extra journaling space. This was a library book, and it still had the card, library card in it, so I left that in that nice little library pocket, which are hard to come by, and put in this little booklet here that I made with my scraps. And the cover here is a lovely page out of an antique children's book from the 1930s. Isn't that wonderful? What a fun first page. That's from a children's craft book here, and you'll see more on the other side. Put some vintage stamps here and an antique texture from a book that I love using, and it's on a vintage French dictionary page. And then in here is just some vintage ephemera. You'll have a lot of fun reading that. This is the mail-in piece for New York, New York. And here we have a vintage recipe card with an advertisement on the back. And I love the phone numbers. Aren't they hilarious? Back when people didn't have 47 different phones. 1945 dictionary page. And this is from, you can see here, the Great World Atlas, Reader's Digest from the 50s. Fantastic. This here is quite old. I actually haven't been able to properly age it. It is just a notebook cover, and I turned it into pockets. So let's see what's in this one. This is from the 1899 book, A Guide to the Opera, and this is one of the opera stars of the day, Jean de Rezque. Oh, I'm so sorry, I just massacred his name. And he was Raoul. That's fantastic, and that's a lovely original print there from 1899. I'm gonna slip that back into its new home. And this is also very early 1900s, before 1910, The Emerald Isle. And a full page poem here with a very old image of a lady on a spinning wheel. Isn't that lovely? So you can read it, journal on it, or just keep it because it's fantastic. And it's a beautiful, the Emerald Isle is of course what they call Ireland. Let's keep going. More of that other side, more of that craft page here. And look at this wonderful bingo card. Now these were used at the local Legion. So crowds would gather and they would all grab their bingo cards and pay money to play bingo at the Legion Hall. That's quite old. I don't know the exact date. I'm going to say 40s to 50s. And over here we have just a little page I pulled out of a magazine. It's just kind of fun. I like the original Scotch tapes, and I always keep them on. And if they're coming off, I actually will glue them back down. It's just got some lovely images here, front and back, wonderful little cartoons. Isn't that great? So you'll have fun looking through that. Lots and lots of vintage paper clusters I've put throughout the journal as well. And this is a little page from the Glamour and the Hostess recipe book. And this one here looks like it's a tea party. Isn't that pretty? And then this here is from the Billboard edition, September 8th, 1928. And you'll see articles here. And I love this, vaudeville pictures and sound films. I mean, it's just so telling of the time back in the roaring 20s. Musical comedies. Remember, these are all live Productions. And there's another flip side of that wonderful vintage Hostess, Glamour and the Hostess book. Little vintage tag here I made out of some very old paper, and just another little booklet here that I made out of some scraps, and a pretty little topper off of an antique book page. And a really pretty tag here. That image came out of a children's book, and all kinds of antique and vintage paper made that pretty little tag to journal on. And I mounted that on top of a vintage sewing pattern. And this is a 1950s store receipt and a 1926 journal page. There we go, front and back with those original pink and blue lines I love so much. I don't know why, I just do. And Dixieland from the 1930s. God Save the King, and Maryland, My Maryland. More clusters. Another lovely page out of a children's book here from the 30s. Ooh, how to make a pinwheel. That's actually really cool. And this is a page out of the French Almanac. I'll show you that in a bit. And look at this lovely, it's a very hard piece, probably the back cover of the Theatre Arts magazine from 1940s. Isn't that great? And in here we have a fun ledger page from 1926. And I love the way they used to write, the cursive writing. It's just fabulous. It's my gosh, if the people back then saw my handwriting today, they'd not be impressed, not even a little. Here we go. So this is out of that French almanac I was telling you about in 1938, and that's this one here. And you can see that's from Paris, France. And then on the flip side of that, we have May 27. Here we go. More of these lovely images from that children's book, and some 1930s Monopoly money there. Vintage stamp up here, along with another cluster that I put together, and a vintage doily, a beautiful pure white one, and it's quite lovely. Can you see that? We'll see the flip side of that in a sec. And we have here a lovely, lovely full page black and white print, and that came from this book here, America's Garden Book. And this one is absolutely lovely. Dogwood trees in bloom. Gorgeous. I made this pocket out of a vintage encyclopedia page and just put in here a little place for you to journal. Made it into a little envelope. And this is another 1950s women's magazine page. And this one is on embroidery. So there's this lovely pattern here. And then on the flip side, this lovely image and some of this, it almost looks like a sew and embroidery, almost like an applique. Really, really pretty. I love that color is so telling with the 50s, right? And then, yeah, this lovely little miniature page here. So lots of spots to journaling, because there's more white space than you think, even though it looks packed with patterns and prints. There's more spaces than you think, and you can tuck your own pages in too. Another tag I made here. And, oh, this is very special. This is a Canada postcard, but it's a business one from 1927, March 1st. And it would have just been how they would correspond with, you know, accounts payable and receivable. I just love those. And here's a lovely postcard, the hills and the river, and that is from the 1920s. Isn't that great? Tuck that right into there. And then we have this lovely little children's page here, and that is from the big storybook. Is that great? I'm really happy with that one. And here I got this from that little vintage, whoopsie, wildflower book that is from England. And this is lovely. I did tea dye it because it was very white, and I wanted it to look more aged than it already is. There's a hidden paper clip here that you can use anywhere in the book you like. And that brings us to the end. So I hope you like this. It's really special. I've even got some vintage chains on here. Please check it out on Etsy, etsy.com/shop/Hyperstamper, and that's with a capital H. And don't forget to subscribe so you can see the next one before it goes on Etsy. See you soon.